Diego, and you're tuned in to Breaking Down the Breakdown. On today's episode, we are going to talk about the trials and tribulations of teaching during COVID. Hello, everyone. I know I have been gone for so long. I'm just trying to fix this. Oh my god, I can actually. Oh, whatever. Sorry. I know people are listening. You're like, what is going on? Don't forget, we also have a video version of this. Anyway, welcome to Breaking Down the Breakdown with Steven Diego. That's me. Today, I have a super special guest. I laugh because everyone's super special to me. I have known this lady for God, how long have I known you for, Yumi? Like 2012? 2011, 2012, right? Around there, 2011.
You can do the math. I don't know
can
how
do
to
the math. You know what? Forget it. She's the teacher and she doesn't want to do the math. Let that be that. Yumi is here. Yumi Sampson. Yeah. Hello, Yumi.
Hi.
What's up?
Good. How are you, Steven?
Oh, you
we're,
know.
we're just gonna be in a cycle.
Yeah, it's gonna be, what is
Back
this?
and
I
forth.
feel like I'm at Starbucks. Like, hey, how are you doing today? Good, how are you? Good, how are you? It's like, fun. Stop it. Well, I'm glad you're on the show. Thank you so much for, gracing us with your presence. I know that I have a lot of things to ask you. You guys can't see it, but she's just rolling her eyes. I'm kidding. Are you nervous, Yumi? You're like the quietest guest I've ever had.
Oh, well, am I supposed to respond every time? Because I didn't want.
She's
wasn't
acting
sure.
like we're not friends, guys. She is.
No.
It's okay.
Well,
she's shy,
I didn't want to interrupt. That's why.
Oh, you can interrupt. I told you already. This is just like how you and I are talking. You interrupt me all the time. I don't know why you're not interrupting me now. But honestly, introduce yourself. Who are you, Yumi?
I am Yumi, and I am your friend.
Oh no.
Honestly, I don't even know what to say. Like, how am I gonna introduce myself? Like,
that's a good question.
I don't know.
That's funny. What would you like to say to people about you? How about that?
Like,
let's start from there.
Like, I guess, I play sports. Well, not everything, but my favorite sport is ultimate frisbee. So, like, I guess, like, how I would introduce myself is based on what I like to do.
Yes.
So Steven and I, we met through gospel choir, right?
Yes, we did.
And so I guess, like, I also like music. That's kind of how we connected with each other. And so what else do I like? I used to play a lot of video games. So
yes, this is true. She was the OG gamer girl back in university days. She is the ADC to my support on League of Legends.
Very competitive.
Very.
We would just stay up late every single day.
Quinn main.
Just to play video games.
I'll never forget.
I know. So yeah, there's a bunch of stuff about me, and I don't know what to share.
Honestly, like it's great. It's amazing. Like people are always like, why do I have to introduce myself? And it's like, honestly, for people who are listening to the show regularly, they're going to notice a pattern. And the pattern is the fact that I want people to know that the people that are getting on this show, that are sharing their experiences right now, are people just like you.
Yes.
People that, and I always say that because, like, I want people to be able to relate. Like, oh, look at this girl that she does this stuff and it's kind of like me. And then, when we delve deeper into things that we want to talk about, it's a lot easier for people to really feel like, okay, you know what? There's somebody out there that's exactly like me that's dealing with these stuff. I can do it. If they can do it, then I can do it too. Right?
Yeah.
So I think it's great. I actually love the fact that you said that because nobody's ever really shared these things about them. When I ask them who they are, it's very professional, very like, I work at this and that and this. And then, I think it's great. But, like the fact that you're able to share your hobbies and tell people what it is you like to do, I think is very important.
Awesome. Well, because, like, I spend, like, so many time working. So, like, that's kind of like, that's not just all about me. There's more I guess there's more to
Exactly.
me than just working.
For sure.
So
Well, speaking of work, what is it that you do?
I'm a teacher. I'm
Mm,
an elementary teacher.
an
Yes.
elementary school teacher. Amazing.
Yes.
People's ears just perked up because I think they know what they're in for with this interview.
Oh my gosh. Now
She's
I'm
like,
nervous.
she's like it's okay, don't worry. I'm gonna make sure that I ask you, questions that's not gonna get you in trouble. But there is one thing that I've always wanted to ask teachers. I do have a lot of teacher friends. Um,
Yes.
Most of them, I mean, Yumi right now is in a different province. If you guys are not from Canada, I'm in Ontario. She is in Alberta.
Alberta.
Oh, thank God.
You got it
I
right.
don't know. I don't know. I'm really bad. I don't know how I passed my citizenship test because like I do not remember the provinces anymore. But it's funny because it's actually very different, the curriculum, right? Like, so it's always nice
Yes.
to hear from somebody who is not in Ontario how it works. My thing is, um, so it's tough to be a teacher. Everybody that has an open mind would know that. And I say that because
Yes.
COVID times has really proven, to be tough because people have come out and not in support of teachers,
Yeah.
with the restrictions and everything. But what do you feel like is the biggest misconception about teaching that you feel like a lot of people have? Like when they think of teachers.
Oh my goodness. So where do I start?
Oh, here we go. Spill the damn tea.
uh, so the reason why I decided to be a teacher was because I thought that it's a great career because you get summers off and you get paid, you get paid during the summertime. And so like that was my biggest misconception, before getting into teaching.
Right.
And I mean, I do love working with kids and I love to teach. Like I feel like I was born to be an educator. And so when I started actually being in the field and actually working, I realized that like number one, we don't really get paid a lot. Number two, our workload is crazy. Like it's a lot. And so
Okay.
I think that those are the two main misconceptions that like it's a relaxing job and we get
Right.
paid very much and we get summers off, but when you think about it, it's literally just like everyone else, we get paid by salary.
But
And
you
so
see, and I like that you pointed that out because on top of just being paid on salary like everybody else, what do you have to do as a teacher? You know what I mean, right? Like, because
yes.
you take us what it looks like to prepare yourself for one day of teaching.
Wow, that's a very good question. Thank you for asking that question. I think before I enter the classroom, before classes begin, we need to be at the school many weeks before. So
Right.
like actually like usually we would have like at least 2 weeks preparation so that we can come in and prepare our classrooms, put decorations, and just prepare for like kids to come in so that when they come in, it's ready. It's what like kids would feel welcome and like it would be this amazing classroom that they would feel like happy about, and
Right.
I guess like they'd feel accepted. So that's one thing. But before that, before we start teaching, we actually have to prepare exactly what we need to teach. And so I think it doesn't take overnight. One
Exactly.
day's lesson doesn't just happen. You don't just come up with like you don't just go to classroom and say like, oh, today this is what I'm going to teach. Like
Right.
it doesn't work that way.
Right.
And so I think what's crazy about teaching is that like you need to always be prepared, because again, you are educating kids. And so you need to make sure that the information that you're teaching them is correct.
Mm-hmm.
And not everyone teaches the same grade every year. So in my case, I didn't teach the same grade last year.
Right.
So now I'm teaching a different grade. So whatever I prepared for last year, it's not something that I can actually, not all of them will be information that I can actually apply to what I'm going to be teaching this year. And so I have to almost restart all over again and find resources. And there's just a lot of things that that you do as a teacher. You're like, you're a therapist, because, you know,
Right.
if a kid comes in who has trauma, you need to learn how to deal with that. You need to kind of be like a second parent, because, you know, some kids, they just need more love. So you need to
Right.
give that love to those kids who need it. You need to be like an assistant to like to like the administration, because if they can't finish, you know, the stuff that they need to get done,
Oh my
that's
God.
something that you might, like,
I
you
didn't
know what I
even
mean?
realize that.
So it's, we're not just teachers, we have other jobs
Right.
that we have to also kind of like fill in, just to make sure that kids learning experience is better,
And I
you
guess that's
know.
why they coined the term educators, right? Because it is not just limited to
Well,
teaching.
sometimes you have to be a nurse too, because like if a kid is
Right.
like sick, you know, like you need to be able to like, okay, are you taking the medication, what time, like,
Oh my
you
God.
know, there are these things that
That's okay. Like I
that's
so now I do want to know, like, it already sounds so difficult on a regular day, right? And teachers often, they don't really complain about that. What they complain about is when things change.
right.
Like, a majority of it not for the better. And I would like to bring up the whole change that teachers or educators, sorry, have experienced during this COVID time, right? What do you think was I mean, aside from like, like the physical, like changes in the classroom, what do you think was the most difficult change teaching while COVID is around? For you,
That
it'll be
is
different for each educator, so it's fine. So there's no wrong answer. But for me, like, like
right.
I'm asking you, like as a friend, right? Like, what do you feel like for you, like, what did you have to kind of adapt to that you found was so difficult or just felt so unfair?
Dang, I I don't know where to start.
Oh
I don't
shit.
know where to start. Okay, so I'm gonna be a little bit more honest and
Okay.
real about
Yeah.
this whole situation. So where I'm teaching is gonna be different from other people's experiences, because
Right. I
like,
forgot. Where are you teaching?
yes, I'm working at a reserve right now.
Okay.
So it's not the same. I wouldn't say it's 100% similar to like working in the city,
Right.
if that makes sense, or
Yes.
even in a different province. So um so I know many teachers outside of reserve, like in the cities, they're also struggling, and obviously there's tons of different like struggles, right?
Of
Like
course.
teachers have their own strengths, they have their own weaknesses, and like what's easy for me might be hard for other people,
Yes.
you know what I mean? And but
Yes.
I think one thing that I've seen, almost similar to many teachers in the reserve and outside of the reserve, it's just the amount of workload that we have to do. So like originally before COVID, we already have a lot of re- I guess like responsibilities that we have to make sure, you know, we're
Right.
on top of. But now with the whole COVID situation, there's more added responsibilities on top of that. And so I mean, in my case, I'm really, really grateful, because in our classroom, I don't necessarily have to worry about always sanitizing the classroom and things like that. But I know in a lot of cities, a lot of teachers are responsible for that. They have to make
Right.
sure that they sanitize the tables every X amount of time, every this amount of minutes or whatnot. And I'm really grateful that I don't have to worry about that. And my administration made sure that it's something that we don't have to worry about.
That's great.
So that's like one of the, I guess, biggest issues, is like more responsibilities. But I think another issue that I found was very difficult is when we had to transition from in person to online.
Right.
So that was the biggest issue, because not all teachers are very tech savvy. And
Right.
so, you know what I mean? So like for
Yes.
someone like me, I'm a little bit younger and I have more experience with, like, we played video games. So
Yeah.
like, you know, we're pretty
Like
I
we're
can
good. You can figure it
I
out.
consider myself as like, I'm not really good with technology, but I know I'm very interested in, I like to learn about technology. And so for me, it was more of a fun experience, you know, transitioning from like printing paper copies to like creating worksheets online. So
Right.
it takes a lot of time, because now we have to basically do everything from scratch, almost everything from scratch. And so that's very time consuming. Like for me, that's okay, but I know for a lot of teachers, that's a lot of knowledge that they have to like learn
Yeah.
in such a short period of time,
Oh
right?
my
And so
God.
just imagine like you didn't know how to do it. Now you're learning how to do that. On top of that, you have X amount of responsibilities that you need to do on top of that. And so like
Hmm.
we have a very limited amount of time every single day. How can we schedule our time so that we get all of those responsibilities done, and we're not behind, right? And so
Right.
technology was kind of like a big issue, and we have to make sure that when we create worksheets and stuff, it's something that kids can actually fill out easily, like they don't have to like learn X amount of stuff before they get into the worksheet. And so how can we simplify everything
Oh,
so that it's easy for kids to just get in or like fill out and stuff. And so I think that's the one of the craziest and hardest part. And then obviously, yeah,
I, I mean, yeah,
yeah.
I'm sorry I sprung that question on you.
It was a lot to say. I'm sorry. Like
No,
I
it's
can't.
great, but that's exactly what I was hoping for, that you were
Yes.
going to be able to voice out just how that was, because I mean, hearing it sounds already overwhelming for me. I don't even
Yeah.
teach, it just so happens that it's unfortunate that there are a lot of opinionated people, online and like in person, that has a lot to say about teachers complaining that this is happening and stuff like that. And it's kind of like, you can't always have the response of, well, then why don't you just homeschool your kids? Because I know for a fact, and I'm not even an educator, and I don't like that idea, because then these kids now only have that influence from that parent, and selective learning will happen, kind of like how people are fed fake news, kind of like, you know what I mean, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
things that they are exposed to. And I feel like that's kind of dangerous.
Well, I'm honestly glad that you asked that question, because I find that sometimes ultimate goal as an educator is to help kids learn at their best.
Right.
But what happens is sometimes, especially during this time, because I know parents are very stressed. They have a lot of things that they're going through, plus education. So now they have to worry about schooling and
Right.
online schooling and stuff. So like our goal is the same as the parents' goal, which is to do the best we can to serve the children, right?
Right.
And I think what's going on in this time right now is parents are starting to see us as the enemy.
Yeah.
Because now, like, I mean, thank goodness I didn't experience that, but I've been seeing a lot of like, I guess like a lot of parents lashing out on like teachers, which is like, I understand your frustration. I understand that like there's a lot of stuff that you have to do, but at the same time, we're also doing the best that we can,
Right.
right?
Like you're not the
It's
enemy
it's
here.
yeah, it's kind of like you are trying to do the best you can to survive and to push through this year and this pandemic. Same thing with us. We're also doing the best that we can to push through. And like, I mean, some of the teachers have children too, and so
Right.
imagine having to do all these responsibilities plus their kids also staying home. And like, everyone is just trying their best to do what they can. And I guess like as a teacher, I just want to let parents know that if you have any concerns, the best way to deal with it is to not complain somewhere else, but really talk to the teacher,
Right.
right? Like,
Right.
you
Straight
know,
out of the horse's mouth,
yeah,
Like,
share your concern with the teacher and just talk to them. Hey, this is not working out. We are struggling. What can we do? How can we make it better?
right.
You know what I mean? Because if you're just going to complain somewhere else, how is the problem going to be solved?
Hmm.
Right? Like, try to communicate with the teacher and see if the teacher can do something about it. And if not, then go to the next person, go to the vice principal, like administration. So like try to settle with the teacher first, because
Right.
sometimes we do what we think is best, but we don't know the situations at home,
Right.
right? Like,
And
does that make sense?
it makes a lot of sense to me. And actually, there's something that kind of just came to my mind now. Um, you guys have to deal with so many things, and I know unfortunately or fortunately, I mean, depending on how you look at it, it is part of the job, right? And I know it is
Yes.
super rewarding when you're able to see a student that you have actually thrive, you know, like almost like what you said, like being a second parent. It's like you see them, you're like, wow, they're so brilliant now, like, you know, they're bright. But one thing that I feel like is being slighted is I'd say like teachers being burnt out from all of this, right? And that to me is another point of concern, in the sense that as much as a teacher does want to do what's right and wants to, you know, do the best thing for the child, have you, not you, but I, because I know you're still good, but have you ever heard of a situation where, or, you know, experience that somebody seems like they're starting to get burnt out and it's starting to kind of show with how they are, like with their work and how they are with the kids, you know? Because I feel like, you know, being in, like when I was in high school, I'm not naming names, right? like
Yeah.
but and this is pre-pandemic, this is like almost 18
Yes.
years before pandemic, you know, like there were teachers that were just so tired of teaching, and you can see it, you know, they were ready to retire, I guess we can say that,
Yeah.
right? And it shows with the quality of work that they had decided to put out. And for me, it's like, you know, is this a possibility that some teachers are experiencing this right now?
Uh, uh, if you ask me, I'm ready to retire.
I'm dead.
um, Burnout, it's easy.
Oh.
So easy to get burnout if you're a teacher, whether pandemic exists or not. And
Hmm.
obviously with a pandemic, that just makes burnout, like it just happens a lot more
Right.
frequently with this whole situation that we have. Um, okay, think about it. As a teacher, you don't just have one boss.
Right.
You have an administration as your boss. Children are your bosses too, right? Parents are your bosses. And so we are serving so many different groups of people. And like if you are, I mean, you can serve, you know, serving, there's nothing wrong with serving. I think you find fulfillment in serving.
Of course.
But I think
Yes.
we burn out because we're giving so much and no one's filling us up.
Hmm.
I think that's where the burnout is coming from. You know, I guess like if there was more appreciation towards teachers, I think if teachers are recognized a lot more, I guess despite the feeling of being burnt out, I think teachers would be able to deal with that emotionally better.
Right.
So like, yeah. Or like if the leadership is great, like, you know, even if even if the policies are kind of messed up, or like I'm not saying the policy is messed up,
No,
but I
for
mean like
sure.
with the responsibilities that we have to do, with all these things that we need to get done, there's always a way to make it more fun and more of a, like a positive experience. And I feel like, you know, having great colleagues make a big difference. You know, even if
Right.
it was a rough day, if my colleagues are amazing, that helps emotionally. Same thing with like administration. If the leadership is also very supportive, if they're always trying to find a way to like fill us up and like, you know, show appreciation, that then we would feel more emotionally stable. If the parents are more empathetic and they're more forgiving, then we would feel like we would have more of the reason to continue and move forward. But if we're not experiencing any of those things and all we see is like, oh, this is not working out, what I'm doing is not good,
Right.
if all we experience is just negative feedback, there's more chances of us just giving up.
And you know, that's a great
Yeah.
point you brought up, because, you know,
Yes.
this is kind of like what happened a few months ago. Remember, with the whole nursing home situation in Toronto, where they were just so done, and, you know, because of the
Yeah.
COVID situation, and they walked out. And
Yes.
it was unfortunate because, you know, you have people that are like, that's your fucking job. How could you just walk out on these old people, you know, essentially letting them die? And then it's
Yeah.
like they, there's a lack of compassion towards these
Mm-hmm.
workers. The
Yeah.
people don't understand what they had gone through, and now they're going to, be the villains again,
Yes.
right? Not realizing that, there's a higher power at play, and nobody ever
Yeah.
talks about that, right? So, it's great to hear this side and this point of view, right? Because that, I feel like, is the last thing on people's minds sometimes. And as a parent especially, of course, they
Mm-hmm.
want to prioritize the wellness of their children, but
Yeah.
half the time they don't realize that comes within the parameters of having a teacher that is happy with the job,
Absolutely.
right? Which,
Yes.
for me, then I do have to ask, because I know you're not burnt out yet, and it's great, like, but that means you're doing something, and something is happening that is really positively affecting your stance, as like, I'm gonna teach and I'm gonna keep on teaching, like.
Yeah.
So how do you deal with that then? How do you deal with not letting yourself burn out? Like, what do you do for yourself,
Mm-hmm.
for other teachers that are maybe just starting teaching, and starts to find that, holy shit, this is so fucking overwhelming, I'm gonna quit, right? Like,
Yes.
what can you say to them? Like, how are you able to kind of keep yourself level headed?
Okay, so the biggest lesson that I learned when I was a student um, was learning how to create boundaries. And this is the biggest lesson I've learned from my mentor teacher. I mean, when you go to your practicum, they teach you about like how to teach and all that stuff. You get
Right.
this like hands-on experience. But I think something like that, creating a boundary, that's something that not everyone gets to learn
Right.
unless your mentor teacher practices that, right?
Right.
And so I remember her like emphasizing with me that, like, you know what, teacher, your responsibility as a teacher, it never goes away. You can complete 20 tasks, but after that 20 tasks, there's more tasks for you to do.
Oh boy.
So it's just a never ending, because you're always grading, you're always marking assignments, you're
Right.
always making assignments, and so your work just never ends until summer, literally, right? And so what she told me was very important, and she said, sometimes when you're in that zone of just working, 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 you forget about your life outside of work. Like, it gets addicting because you want to just finish one task after another,
Right.
right? But you realize that, like, you just spent most of your time working and you have nothing left for yourself and for your family. And so she always emphasized that, like, you know what, put a deadline to your time at school. I know you can stay at school until 7, 8, 9 or whenever, but like, you need to make sure that you put a reasonable amount of time, leave that school. As soon as you leave the school, leave your work behind.
Mm.
So learn how to not bring work home. And I know that's really hard, especially for teachers who are beginning.
Right.
And so what I also have learned with that is, I know as a new teacher, we want to create our own stuff. Like, there's just so much like pride, that comes with, like, oh, I'm going to create my own stuff, my own
Right.
resources. But what's the point of creating your own resources when there's already something that's been done
Okay.
and has been proven to work? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, like, try not to reinvent the wheel. Save your time and don't reinvent the wheel. Like, if your colleagues have resources to share with you, utilize that resources. Tweak it a little bit, but you don't
Mhm.
necessarily have to create your own and spend hours and hours and hours just to make original stuff. Like, it doesn't make sense, because
Right,
you're
because
gonna
then you're
end
gonna
up.
end up with the same fucking thing.
Exactly. And I find that a lot of new teachers have that like mentality of creating everything from scratch, or like they're going to make their own and stuff. And trust me, I've been there. I've done
Okay.
that too.
Right.
But like, at one point you have to ask yourself, if you spend way too much time just doing these like fresh, new content, then like, where are you going to put the time to get everything else done?
Right.
Right? And so, like, really learning to create boundaries. And avoid recreating something all the time, and use what you have, use what people have used, especially when they have really good reviews on it, or if it's something that already worked, there's really no point. Just edit it if you want. And also, like, make sure that like you have time for yourself and your family. I think that was the biggest lesson that I learned, because I feel like if I didn't do that, I would have burnt out like
Quick, right?
a year ago.
Oh
Yes.
my
Yes.
goodness. And it's, that goes with every job, right?
Hmm.
But unfortunately, certain jobs, they can't,
It's a lot.
right? So it's like
Yeah.
what I was
And
trying to say is like I feel like it's good that as a teacher, it's good to recognize that you do have this time for yourself. You
yes.
can create that time and to not take that for granted, right?
Yeah, like I guess like don't allow work to control your time and
Hmm.
your life. I
Right.
think that's always find a way, actually not always find a way, be in control of your own time,
Right.
and you direct where your time is going to go. Is this time going to go to this? Is this time going to, like, you should be the manager of your own time, and you should make sure that you are like time blocking. And I mean, this doesn't just go with teachers, like this is something for everyone. Like, don't allow time to control you. You control your time, because your time is your life. You know what
Nice.
I mean?
Yes, I like
and
that.
and plus, like, always surround yourself with people that will fill up your cup, because as a teacher you're always pouring, right? And
Right.
so you need to start assessing how much time you spend with people, and are those people actually there to fill up your cup, or are they also draining energy? Because there are people who
Mm.
kind of just, unfortunately, there are people like that. They drain energy out of you. And so you need to really assess the people that you hang out with, and be more intentional about who you spend time with. Because if you're already drained from work, you come and see people, and that those people would also suck your
Like
energy up.
yeah.
Like, what would happen to you? Like, you would be like a zombie, like,
Right.
literally. Yes.
Oh my God.
So it's a lot of like intentionality, right? Like, be intentional about what you're reading, because if you're always listening to the news, that's also draining. Like,
Right.
you know what I
That's
mean? It's
true.
like, are you listening to like stuff that create a lot of negativity in your head? Because that's the least thing you need right now, like, honestly, right? Like, so what are you listening to? Who are you hanging out with? Like, what kind of energy do you get from these people? And just like assessing those things, literally being in control of like what's going in and out of your head.
That's amazing. That honestly, a lot of people, well, specifically here, teachers, right, probably don't even get to realize that, right? Because they always want to be in the know. They want to know what's about to happen. Is there a curriculum change? Is there something that's going to happen that's going to affect my kids? What's going on in the world? And it sucks. It's very overwhelming. Like I'm overwhelmed. And I'm not even the teacher. So my hat and my heart goes out to all the teachers out there, all the educators that are having to deal with this. That is just
Yes.
that is crazy, Yumi.
It's
I don't want to be a teacher.
it's the honestly, it's the reality. It's
I'm only saying that because I remember like they were telling me like, oh, you should just be a teacher, and I'm like, no. After hearing this, I'm just kind of like, mm-mm, mm-mm, no.
yeah.
I honestly like I think it's amazing and I think it's super fulfilling, but I'm already burnt down. I haven't even taught yet. So no thanks. But
Yeah.
anyway, that was wow. I'm floored. Thank you for sharing all that. Like that to have that kind of, insight. Like I never thought of it that way, right? Like I not that I was like, with those people in terms of like, wow,
Hmm.
teachers are like this, teachers are like that. It's not that. Like I
Yeah.
knew you guys were struggling, but I never took into consideration just how much of it is actually brought back home and how much of that really does affect you mentally and emotionally, and like how it actually
Yeah.
can change your life.
Like, honestly, if I didn't know how to like do these boundaries, Andrea and I, like, our marriage probably wouldn't be very, very strong right now. Because I find that like coming home from a really stressful day, like
Right.
especially where I worked last year, it was a very stressful environment. And so I just remember like I would come home and just like, because I had a really bad day, like that energy would be like transmitted to like Andrew. And obviously, the next thing I know, we'd end up like having these like, it wouldn't be an argument, but I would start getting frustrated because I would like tell him about my day and it was
Right.
just negative. And obviously, like he doesn't really understand half of what's going on because he's
Of course.
never
He's
in
never.
the environment.
Yeah.
And so it's like sometimes it can really affect relationships if we let it. You know what I mean?
That's
And so like how do I say it? It's just we need to be, it takes a lot of intentionality to make sure that your health, your wellness is in shape, especially during this time. And that means we need to make, like, feel like I need to make better choices
mhm.
in order to make sure that my health is in good shape. Because otherwise, yeah, relationships would be wrecked. I would just spread negativity everywhere I go. Like, you know what I mean?
I
It's
think
just,
it's funny because for the people that are hearing this right now, they might have the same sentiments that I'm going to have and say that, this sounds a lot easier said than done, which,
mm,
you know,
yes.
but I know the amount of work you've put in with your mindfulness. And, like that's what's coming out right
Yeah.
now is it's how mindful you are of things, right? And I really feel like a lot of people need to really practice that,
Oh, yes.
right?
Yes.
Like because it's a lot of hard work, but look at the payoff, right? Like you
Yes.
are in such a stressful environment, but you are able to deflect the negativity that comes your way because of that. And I think it's commendable and I think it's great.
Thank you. It's gonna be a messy, it's gonna be a messy journey. That's
Right.
just how it is.
Yeah.
I think it takes a lot of patience with ourselves because we're learning something new, right? And it takes a lot of patience and it takes a lot of, I guess, time. Takes a lot of time.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes.
And like we always feel like it's something we don't have, right? We always feel like, we
Yes.
want to take a shortcut, take the easy way out, right? Kind of like with me when wanting to take the pills instead of like just doing the therapies, and it's like, look
Yes.
where that fucking put me, right? And it's hard work, but
Yes. It's
we
hard.
have Yumi here saying it works, guys. Like,
It honestly, it's worth it because like you're basically conditioning yourself. That's what
right.
it is. It's kind of like going to the gym. Like, there are days when you really want to go to the gym and it's so easy, but there
Yes.
will be days when you don't want to go to the gym,
Yeah,
and
exactly. Like
there will be
winter.
days exactly. And there will be days when like you just want to make an easy decision, a
Yes.
decision that's easier for you, like which is to be upset or like to just lash out on someone. And choosing to not lash out on someone and be more emotionally like stable is more challenging.
Of
But
course.
I mean, have you ever gone to the gym and regretted it?
No, maybe
Yeah.
once.
Like I mean, most of the time you don't want to go to the gym and then you go there and then at the end
You're
of that,
great.
yeah, you say,
Yeah.
oh, I'm glad I did,
Yeah.
right? It's kind of the same thing. Like most of the time you don't want to take the harder route,
Yeah.
but then you decide to do it, and then after that you realize I'm glad you made that decision. So it's kind of like that.
Oh, Yumi, I gotta clap for you just because there is just so much that you have shared that I feel like a lot of people will be able to relate to, or a lot of people would start to kind of be like, okay, so that's how teachers feel about the situation. And I'm just so glad that you were so open and honest about this whole thing. I know it probably wasn't easy talking about it. I know you probably were like had to walk on eggshells, don't want to offend anybody, don't want to say the
Yeah.
wrong things. But I think the greatest thing about how open and honest you were is that you were able to say things that I was like I was a little scared because I was like, where is this gonna go? But and it had great purpose as to why you went there. So I think that's amazing. And I
Yeah.
just want to say thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you for being kind.
No, come on now. I'm not that kind. I'm just
Of course
honest.
you are.
No, but we are running out of time, unfortunately, for this one. Yumi will be back for a few more episodes just because, like we have a lot to talk about. We have a lot to say. Expect expect her
Oh
and
gosh.
and her hubby to make an appearance. But honestly, I just want to say thank you. We are going to be talking about another topic later. And, if you guys tune in, it'll be the next episode for this. So watch out for that. But for now, we just want to say thank you again for listening to us. This is Breaking Down the Breakdown with me, Steven Diego, and Yumi Samson. If you have any questions for Yumi or myself, obviously, it's in the info, stevendiego@hotmail.com. That's Steven with a PH. You can direct it towards me or towards Yumi. We'll get back to you. If you ever want to be on the show, just email me. Totally not a big deal. I think it would be great. But yes, we just want to say thank you for now. And always remember, open that compassion up. Make sure you are practicing some self compassion yourself. And always be kind to people.
Mhm.
Goodbye. Good morning, good afternoon, good night. I hope you guys are having a great week.